All right. So today I'm going to play the adult version, or rather, the version made for adults of the game Opal. And what this game does is it starts with estimation tasks, and I'll explain the rules as I go through. Uh, and then it moves towards more precise counting, right? But it juxtaposes those as you go. So what I'm doing here is I'm trying to find the card that has a different number of triangles than the rest. It could be less than the rest, it could be more than the rest. I'm not sure what it is. It's random. All of the representations are random, but I got to find the one that's different. We start in space and we have to sort of estimate. As you can see, I was able to go through those pretty quickly. And then we move towards more precise counting. And what this does is it allows the game to be accessible to even the youngest students, while also being challenging for adults. Like the version I'm playing has much harder puzzles and is a lot longer um, than the one I would give to my son, who's 4. But he can still get through the entire thing. All right. So that's one of my favorite levels. The triangles are a lot of fun because, like, if they're close to each other, they look like a diamond. Um, oh, well, I like this level too. I like all the levels, but this one in particular because I have been amazed so many times at how quickly young kids can solve these puzzles because it activates a part of their brain that is innate and ingrained from birth. So, estimation tasks, our brains love to do estimation quickly. They do not like to do precise calculations quickly, even with small numbers. But our brain absolutely loves estimation tasks, and the what's the word I'm looking for? Researchers' explanation for this, or at least some researchers, is that we're evolutionarily designed to want to do estimation tasks quickly. That is, like, Arabic numerals is a modern phenomenon, and we have not had time to evolve to be necessarily very good at it. So we're sort of tricking our brains into doing precise arithmetic by using neuronal architecture that was designed for estimation. I think is the best way to say it. Um, and there's something called the neuronal recycling hypothesis. I got to make this level easier. And it basically says that, right? That is, we have sort of neuronal architecture designed for uh, doing things like estimation, and then we sort of repurpose that when we start doing um, more advanced math. And whether it be counting or calculus, right? We're still leveraging uh, the same parts of our brain. Okay. Oh, this is a fun one. So this is still the same activity, but some of the representations sort of intertwine on each other, right? So they form new shapes. So it becomes a little harder um, to see. And that's why I made the ratios a little bit bigger on this one because you have the added complexity of some of the shapes forming circles or new shapes, and it just sort of randomizes. So like you can never quite tell what's going to be formed. But the rules are always the same. Like every single level, I'm just looking for the card or the tile that's different from the rest. I actually got this idea from a game called, I think, Color Test or something, where it shows you an array of colors and you have to pick the color, like it'll all be purple, and you have to pick the purple that's a little bit less purple or more purple than the rest. So it's like, how quickly can you identify colors? And that's a lot of fun, right? Because our brains, we don't count colors. We sort of just naturally intuit them. So it's a really sort of fun game. And I thought, well, could we apply that to math? All right, so let's keep going. I'm doing pretty well. My high score here is actually, what is it? 7,000. And oh, these are fun. Oh, was that the end? Oh, I really like that level. And in order to get 7,000, I'm definitely not going to hit it here. You have to answer pretty much instantly for the estimation puzzles. You can slow down in the caves like this to make sure you get it right. Um, but you really, really have to go fast for the estimation puzzles. And you're rewarded for that. Like you get more points for going quickly. Um, All right, let's keep going. Ah, the pink level. This was the first level I ever created, right? So this is a fun one. This used to be the first level in the game, and then after a while, I just started randomizing the levels and making them all approximately the same level of difficulty, just with different representations. Because for me, it just got boring after a while playing the same levels. And oh, there we go. Uh-oh, help. There we are. Um, it just got boring playing the same levels over and over again. So that's why I went ahead and said, well, let's just randomize them, right? So even if you don't get through the first couple levels, you still might see something different, and it sort of gets you exposure. So kids don't have to like get good at the game to be exposed to the other representations. Um, there's one caveat to that, and that is there are levels that have fractional representations in them, and those levels I did save for last, right? So when the kids get to the last two levels, it actually starts with fourths and then goes to halves. And you'll kind of see why that makes sense. You might see like, oh, let's start with halves and then go to fourths. Um, the way it works out is that fourths are actually a little bit easier than halves because of the estimation component. This level is a bit of an oddball, and it really tricks you because sometimes there'll be like one card that only has two diamonds. Yeah, like it took me way too long to find that. I don't know what it is. It just sort of tricks your eyes in a funny way. Um, a note on speed. I do not mind timed math activities, particularly ones that require qualitative thinking, right? Our brains really don't mind doing that quickly, right? We're designed to. Um, what we don't like doing is precise computation, and particularly precise computation that we're still in the process of learning. So if a kid already kind of knows their math facts and they're trying to reinforce them or get faster, I think that's totally fine. But if they haven't already committed most of them to memory and it's not just a reinforcement activity, I think time tests can be a real problem. So, um, lots of tools in the education world. They all have a different. I think I just missed on that one. So these are fun. The little thumbprints. Uh, are a lot of fun. And for the cave level, I did something interesting. So we're almost there. I'll show you in a second. There we are. So I used the canonical representation of five, like that you would see on dice. You'll see it in a second. Um, and there we go. I rotated the thumbs a little bit so it's slightly harder to see. I call this the broken fives level. So they're all fives except for one, or only one of them is a full five. So in this one, you have to say, oh, there's only one that's a full five. There it is. So it sort of tricks your eyes a little bit in a way that's kind of fun, right? So if you recognize fives, um, you can sort of get through. Hold on, these are all broken except for this one. So I thought about doing that with other representations, but five was the most fun because it's like kind of the most recognizable. Like my son from a very young age, he could recognize five. Oh, okay. Here's the fraction levels. All right, so you see, I start with like fourths, and some of them, come together to form a circle. But at the end of the day, we're really just counting fourths. Um, but it's an estimation task, right? You're not really doing precise work uh, with the fractions. Here we go. I kid you not, my 4-year-old can solve puzzles like at this level, right? So he could figure this one out, and it's just because we all have this superpower, right? Our brains love estimating and moving quickly. We just do not like precise computation. I have a degree in math, and I still cannot stand it. Um, this level I got to make a little easier, at least in the beginning for the younger kids. You can sort of piece it together, um, but it is pretty difficult. So still some tweaks to be made, but it's fun for adults. See, even I got that one wrong. All right. So I think. we're on to the halves. All right. So when we get to the final level, um, which is this one, you'll see that they're all halves, and we start with estimations. It's not too bad, right? The contrast is a little bit easier to see. Maybe I should brighten up the red in the other level. Um, so it's a nice kind of visual perception activity. Some of them come together, so sometimes you can be like, well, which one has the most circles? But that would be wrong in this one. It's actually this one. So you still gotta have some sense of how they fit together to do this. But you can, for the most part, get through it with estimation, right? Even if you knew nothing about, oh, there we go, fractions. All right. So here is where um, it really gets difficult. And this is the final level, right? So this is at the end of the game. Students will never see this in the beginning. So I'll just slow down here. All right. So my halves are a lot. I have fewer of them, and the the ratio between the maximum and the minimum card is, I think, 3 to 1 or something like that. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I guess 3 to 1. So I have three halves here, having two holes there, having two holes there. Okay, so it's going to be the three halves. Mm, a half and a hole, three halves. That would be a half and a hole. Yeah. So, oh wait, did I mess that up? See, I'm going too fast. So you do have to kind of slow down a little bit and say, okay, well, these two halves make a whole, so that's two. You got to count the circles as two. But ultimately, you're still just counting up how many halves are there. I got that one. All right. So there's some other mechanics to the game that I didn't mention as I went through. Um, but maybe I'll talk about them some other time. The main one is that there's actually a story behind all of this. Like the concept for this game started as a bedtime story. So it started as a bedtime story. How did it go? It was about like a civilization that lived on these planets, and their sun got too big and exploded, and they had to leave, or they went extinct or something. And the before they left, they hid all of their seeds in the caves. And so you have to kind of go through and um, find all of the seeds and rebuild the civilization. So I'm not explaining I'm not explaining it very well. I'll do another video, sort of going through that. Um, but there is kind of like a story and a lore behind it. Hey, so I made it to the final planet, which is nice and green. It's not kind of like this dystopian uh, kind of vibe that the rest of them have. Okay. Um, and that's pretty much it, right? So I've collected, plants and plasma and all of these things that do have a role in the broader game world that I'm, trying to build out eventually. 5,000, that's a pretty good score. But for the time being, it just sort of makes the activity itself a little bit more engaging and add some variety to it. The main mechanism I really like is that there's a very distinct difference between the planets and the caves. So you can ask a student, like, how are the caves different, right? Like, why is it harder to go quickly? Um, to sort of motivate them to appreciate, I guess, cardinality. Whereas before they were really using their intuition. Now it's like, okay, well, do we really need our intuition here, or is our intuition going to fail us, and do we have to slow down and count? So that's the game. That's the advanced version. Um, there are other versions that are for like younger kids. But as an adult, it's still fun to play through. I mean, go ahead, give it a shot. Can you can you beat my score of 7,000? I played a lot before I broke 7,000. It's like a pretty hard wall to hit. So give it a shot, and that's about it.